Kenny here with Gardening Simplified. It's January 8th, and it's that time that I'm going to start some of my seeds. So let's take a look what's going on. We've got our trusty guide out, and I've taken and remodified it. I've made me a little booklet. I've taken and laminated it so it would stay in good shape. My older one that I have is looking pretty rough, wrinkled up, and everything else. So what I did was print a new copy of the one that I like. Now, like I say, this is not my zone. A little bit further south, this works real well for me. Remember, this is just a guide, but like I say, I like this one as far as the way it's set up. It gives me the different times for planting, whether you're planting inside, whether you're planting outside, and then it's got a diamond for the best time. And you can go through here, and on this particular chart, it tells you whether you're planting seeds, whether you're planting transplants. So it gives you a good idea. That's one of the ones that I like. And this other one, now you can get you one on your own. This is from Johnny Seeds website. And they've got a place where you can do your seed starting calculator, and you just put in your last frost date, which I've done, and then you can go down and it tells you when to start them, when it's safe to set them out, and such as that. So as far as it would tell me, say if I was going to plant artichokes, well, how many weeks you've got to grow before you set them out, tell you when to start them, and of course it's going to say set them out once it's free of frost. Now some of these other ones might tell you a little bit later because they're more frost tender, and some might be before, like beets. Of course, we're not going to plant them inside. We can plant them out. If you're going to plant them out, it tells you a time to where it'd be safe as far as because the more frost tender ones. Now you have to take in consideration your weather, so you have to do some planning and thought. But I figured I'd go over that one more time, and now we're going to talk about what we're going to plant today. Seed starting, take 2. Yes, I went through this already, but it was a silent movie. I forgot to turn my mic on. First thing when you're starting seeds, you have to start out with some type of starter mix. For those that don't plant very many seeds, you can just get some seed starter. Now it's kind of sterile. You don't have to worry about anything. A lot of people want sterile soil when they start their seeds. I don't. I want my soil to have some microbes in it from the start. And I take and I use pelletized chicken litter, which is 3-3-3 mix. And for those that's the NPK, the nitrogen, phosphate, and potassium that's in there, which gives them a balanced start. And the thing about organic fertilizer is it acts like slow release, so it takes a while for the microbes start breaking it down, and then they'll start feeding the plant. But it works real good for growing my transplants out. And you want to moisten your mix. You don't want to use it like this where it's not got water in it. You can see how much darker it is, and it's not saturated. You don't want water even close to dripping out of it when you put it in there. And just kind of bump your trays down. Now I use a piece of wood and I push them down a little bit below the top. Now we're going to go through what I'm going to plant, and I have actually 19 varieties, but I'm only planting 18 today. My sweet peppers, I'm planting a sweet banana. I'm planting a jalapeno. Now the people that never had jalapenos, it tastes like a jalapeno, but it has zero heat. I really like them chopped up in my salads. And I have a habanada. Now the habanada is just the flavor they say is like a jalapeno. Now I'm not like a habanero, and I can't say for sure because habaneros are so hot it's kind of hard to taste the flavor, but the habanada tastes has a really sweet, fruity taste. It's a wonderful tasting pepper. I have a new one I'm planting this year is the Cajun bell. This is a bell pepper that's got just a little spice to it, so it's going to be just a little spicy bell pepper, and we'll see. This is one my daughter wanted to plant, and so I think it'd be an excellent one to try. And then we have the Dox de Espagne, or whatever it is. This is a bell pepper. This one comes from Baker Creek, so it's an heirloom. You can save the seeds or open pollinator one. But anyway, this pepper, it's got that wonderful bell pepper flavor. It's really sweet if you let them turn red. They make kind of a big, longer bell pepper with a little taper to it. They're nice and good flavor. And the other bell pepper that I'm going to be planting is the Emerald Giant, which was one I planted last year. That's really it makes a good large one if you've got the right condition. And the flavor of it, it's really meaty and it's got good bell pepper flavor. Now, on our hot peppers, this is going to be a new one this year. I got these seeds before, but it didn't put them out. I was hearing a little bit about this pepper, and I can't tell you anything, but we're going to grow it this year. The Sugar Rush is one we grow every year. It's kind of sweet, but it's really hot. It's at the lower end of habanero, but its heat dissipates quick. The Hatch Green Chili, if you're not familiar with that one, some call it the New Mexico chili pepper. But this is a really good one. In fact, I've switched to a lot of my sauces that I make. I use this instead of jalapeno. We do have the Carolina Reaper, and the reason we're planting these peppers now is it would still be early compared to charts and guides on this. But last year we started as early as January 1st on some because we wanted some early ones that we could put in the greenhouse where we could kind of control the climate a little bit. We didn't have heat, but we could cover them if it got real cold and didn't worry about the wind and stuff. But peppers normally, and I always say 8 to 10 weeks. Now, a lot of places say 8. Well, if you grow them later and it's already warm and everything else, they'll grow quicker. But if you don't have those ideal conditions like you're starting early now, they're going to germinate slower, especially if your seeds are a little older. These ghost peppers, they're a couple years old, so they might come up a little slower. So we'll be ahead of the game. But like the Carolina Reaper, it is a really slow growing pepper when it's seeds planted. Once it gets up a little size, it takes off. But when it's starting out for a seedling, it's slow. So they really need, this could be 12 weeks before this is ready to go in the ground. So I want to make sure I've got it in time. And the other thing is if you plant them too early and they get real leggy and tall, all you got to do is go back where I planted cayenne peppers that were about 18 inches, maybe even close to 2 foot tall. And I was trying to tell people, don't throw away your transplants. You get so much bad advice on a lot of these Facebook groups and stuff like that, maybe even different YouTube channels and stuff. A leggy plant, there's nothing wrong with it. Peppers are like tomatoes. You can plant them a little bit deeper. They'll put roots out the side of the stem. But anyway, I planted these and we went through, and on the garden updates you can see they turned into wonderful plants and really good producers. Also, what I'm doing here is I'm multi-sowing these because I'm going to let these germinate here. I'm not going to waste my time putting a couple of seeds in a cell tray and then say if the seeds aren't very viable, then I'm going to have a lot of cell trays that I'm going to have to dump out, because if I end up with fungal gnats or something like that, I don't want to put another seed in while they've already started to get an infestation, and by the time it comes up, the fungal gnats kill it. So, but anyway, that's part of what we'll go into. Now I'm planting the poblano, and I've got some other seeds. I think these might be older than those. I'm not sure. No, these are actually newer seeds. But I've got some older ones too that I've saved. We got the ghost pepper. We've got or thick cayenne pepper. This is most of you are familiar with the smaller cayenne. This is a bigger cayenne, so I didn't like having to take so long to harvest to get my cayennes, and it's a good flavored pepper. So I got a Calhoun. Now this is Calhoun hot, but it's not all that hot a pepper. It's between a cayenne and a serrano, but it looks kind of like a cayenne. It's kind of the Calhoun, because it maybe if you pictured a longhorn or something, the way their horn is shaped, well, that's kind of the thing. Now, the paprika pepper, we make our own paprika, and we've grown these for the past 2 years. They're excellent producers, and the flavor is really good on them. And I'm planting the shishito again this year. Now, I planted it the first time last year, and this is a really wonderful flavored pepper. And for those of you that don't like heat, its Scoville is like 50 to 200, so it's you barely even got any flavor heat. Sometimes you might get a bell pepper that's got just a little bit of heat in it, just real mild. But even if you like hot peppers, this is a really good flavored pepper. So if you're putting peppers in it, you might want to add it to spice it up. We're doing the serrano. I won't go into that too much because most of y'all know. I'm doing a jalapeno. This is a medium hot. Most people don't like real hot ones, and so this works good. And this can get hot if you let it get veining and turn red. And we're doing the yellow scorpion pepper. But let me get ready here, and we'll show you how we're going to plant these. Okay, first thing we're going to plant, we've got our cayenne, and make sure you got your stuff labeled so you'll know where it is. Now, there's quite a few seeds in here. Now, we're going to want probably a dozen plants, so we're actually going to plant more than a dozen seeds in here. Like I say, we might, of course, neighbor might want some too. But that ought to be a good amount of seeds to get us how many we want. Once we plant that, we're just going to sprinkle some more of our mix here, our starting mix, over the top. And we're just going to lightly touch this down so it makes good contact with the seed. Then we're going to water this in. And I'm going to do the rest of these, and then we'll talk about what's next. All right, I got them all planted and watered in. Once you water them in, you look, you might have a few seeds that floated up. Just take the time to go through, just stick them under, put a little dirt on top of them, and that'll ensure that seed's going to germinate pretty quick. But just take your time, make sure you get them all. Don't get one stuck to whatever you're using, and carry it on to the next one. Sometimes you might plant one thing and you might end up with a total different plant in there. It's real common when you're planting things like turnips or something like that, even collards. You might end up with a stray, some other kind of seed in there, which I planted my cayennes last year, and I ended up with what I called was a mystery pepper because I had no idea what it was. And the flavor was way different than a cayenne. It was kind of similar, but not really. Anyway, I think I got most of them. Now these need to be watered in good. You can fill the weight of your containers. Now what I want to say is I'm using kind of a deep container here when I do these this year, and that's because a lot of times the roots go to the bottom. Once they go to the bottom, then they start getting intermingled real good, and it's a little harder to separate and not tear up the roots. Not that they won't go on, but they'll do better if they have all the roots. I think this might alleviate that problem. I pushed all my tags down real low, and that's because even though I have a tall cover for here, it's not going to go down. Now with those tags up there, it won't go down. Make sure your cover is all the way on, and make sure you wipe off any dust. Now this was pretty dusty when I started. Now with peppers, peppers like it warm, so I'm going to put a germination mat underneath this to ensure that they think that it's really warm outside and they want to grow. All right, if you're going to start your plants and you're going to use a heat mat, there's different types of heat mats. Now, there's this one here. As you see, this is carbon fiber or carbon film. And what it is it's an even film, so it heats all evenly through the whole thing. Now, this one here it has wires. Well, I'm going to lose my one off the shelf. Fix that. This one has wires, and you can see where it's been sitting and rubbing, how the wires run down. This will be sufficient, but if you're going to buy one, I recommend the carbon film one more. I have both types. They both work, but I have noticed that the carbon film is a whole lot evener heat over it. It's not like you've got spots that you feel it's warmer. By the time it transfers up, it probably doesn't matter. But like I say, I just want you to be aware of that. Another thing you're going to have is you're going to have some kind of grow station, grow lights. Now I use these 6500K LED lights, and they've worked really well. This year I've changed up my grow system just a little bit. I added one more light. I moved my one light's all the way to the edge and put one in the center to give me a little bit more light. I noticed that the plants tend to go to the window, which there's light out there, but even when it's not a lot of light, they still seem to go towards the middle because these lights were set in just a little bit from where they are. So be aware of that. This is just one that I built. I have a video, if you go back on thinking the how-dos to build one of these. It gives the information on where you can get these kind of bulbs. And like I say, they just work really well. Also, if you want to be uptown more, you can get they make little thermostat controlled plugs that have a thermometer. You can stick in your cell tray, turn it and adjust it for what temperature you want. And I have done that in the past on some. Realize too, these mats won't bring up 10, maybe 10 degrees. They could be lucky to bring up 15 if you, like my main grow station, I have styrofoam insulation on each one of these shelves, so the heat doesn't get lost underneath and it goes up into it, which they will work better. Another option, this light here has a control. Now, all this controls is the amount of juice going to that carbon film. I keep it all the way up. If it feels like it gets too hot, I might turn it down, because you can tell if it feels really hot on your hand and you're at 98.6, then it's definitely above 100. So anyway, let me put these plants up here. Okay, look at that. We've got our first start on this 2024 growing season. I hope a lot of you gardeners are like me. You really get excited about gardening. Now what we're going to do is we're going to plant some other vegetables. And let me get set up here. Now that we've got set up, got our tray filled, got little indentations made, I want to remind people to think of things that you're going to want during the year that you kind of overlook sometimes. And dill or dillweed is one of those things. Dill is really slow to start growing, and then, you know, after a while it just seems to take off, but it can take a good while to get it started. Now, according to my guide, it says plant this in the second week in February, but like I say, it's a guide. For me, I know I've already got dill growing in my greenhouse, which isn't heated, but it keeps a lot of the elements off it. Later this week, I think, and we'll be down to the mid to lower 20s, and that can do in a lot of things. But anyway, these are self-save seeds. They've been, well, I've got quite a few of them, so I don't worry about putting them now. I put some in here, and what I do is just I just tap and put about a half a dozen in a hole, and it's a little hard doing this one-handed, but I'll just continue and fill this up. But like I say, that's the thing about planting, because the reason why I say you plant dill now is because if you wait and then your cucumbers are ready to harvest and you're wanting to make dill pickles, then you're going to have to go shopping for dill, and there's no reason for you to shop for dill because it grows so well. And I've saved seeds off mine. I've got 2-pint jars full of seeds besides what I'm sowing here. Not that I need that many seeds, but seeds can be used as far as in pickles and different things like that too. So I've saved some extra. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and finish planting these. I haven't apologized. Might need to if you're hearing a lot of background noise. I've got my freeze dryer going, and it's right here close. But anyway, I've got these watered in. Now, one thing I want to stress is whenever I say use a moistened starting mix, whatever kind you use, because if it's not moistened, then it's going to be hydrophobic. It's funny how little it does rubbing your hand through and mixing the water in, how it makes it absorb it that much quicker. I don't know if it's electricity, energy from your body or what. But anyway, if it doesn't take water when you water it, that's going to be the reason why. And if you go back to seed starting video way back in history of the channel, there was some tomato plants that I used a dry mix, and I set the container in a tray of water, going to just let it wick it up, and it never did because it was hydrophobic. And what that means is it doesn't want to have water. It's something about maybe the charge of the soil or something, I can't tell you. But do that, and then whenever you water these in, now these dill won't need any extra bottom heat because they'll germinate fine. They like cooler temperatures, and being this is inside and it stays up probably around 70 degrees in here, then they'll do fine. And I normally do it by weight of my tray because I'm used to it. Now, I do want to encourage a lot of you that's growing, you see these videos and you grow in pots and stuff, or peat pellets and things like that. I don't recommend peat pellets at all. The main reason for it is they dry out on the side, so they discourage roots reaching out. These trays here, being they're plastic, they don't dry out on the side, so the roots will go right to the edge. Now, these are the small ones like you would get if you was buying a lot of your, I don't know, transplants might be in a little bigger ones now. But this is a 72 cell tray. You can purchase these different ones now. They have some at the big box stores like Lowe's or Walmart, but their trays are all connected. You can split them like in the middle, but the way the trays are made, they're connected. And if you're going to plant different kinds, say you've got this one tray, you're going to plant all your different varieties in this one tray. When one comes on and it needs to come out, you need to be able to separate it so you don't have to mess with the other ones. And that's where these come in. Now, these come off of Amazon. You can buy your trays that they set in. Now, I've talked about before, like your feed stores, maybe Walmart or stuff. These trays, like they come in from there. They'll usually give them to you. They don't send them back to the distributor. And so they just get rid of them. And if you ask them, and that's where I've got mine, that's what a lot of mine goes in, like this one. It's got that deal, and it keeps these from moving around as much. But like I say, this is a good thing to invest in. It's not going to cost you that much, and a dome, so that when you germinate them, you have that dome to put over the top to keep the moisture in. And with that, you cut down, I'm not going to say you eliminate fungal gnats, but it cuts down a lot on the fungal gnats. But the big thing is it keeps moisture in. I won't have to water these seeds in until they actually come up. But this is ready to go on the shelf. And I also, while we're doing this, I want to talk about direct seeding plants. Now, I have grown beets in cell trays and then put them out in little blocks. And you can do that. But I find that if I keep the ground good and moist, because they like a lot of moisture to get that their seed outer layer kind of broke down, and beet seeds, most of them are multi seeds. So one seed might have 4 or 5. One seed pod might have 4 or 5 different seeds. So your beets come up in groups kind of, and that's why you don't want to sow them too close when you do sow them, because of that fact. You know, your seed might not germinate, but you do a whole lot less thinning, or you know, you can grow them that way and then thin your big ones out and leave the others. You'll occasionally pull a little one with them, but you can do that. Also, your cabbages. I've got a couple varieties here. I'm going to sow again. And one thing that a lot of people forget are their flower seeds. Now, your flowers, they're normally, most of them, well, I say most, a lot of them are really slow growing. They're not like a sunflower where it pops up and it takes off and goes. It takes them a while to germinate sometimes, and they just seem to take forever to get up to size. Once they get whole, well, they start going. But if you're going to have your flowers ready for spring, then you need to check into them and see, because a lot of these might be 12 weeks before they're ready to go out. So you know your greenhouses right now, that's what they're doing. They're getting all those starts ready so you can come and get them, but you can save a whole lot of money and have a beautiful flower garden to go ahead and get those started. Anyway, I'm going to wrap this up. I thank you for watching. I hope that I give you a little bit of information, a little bit of encouragement. And the one thing I always want to say is share this video. Enjoy that gardening experience.